All right, we are live once back.
Take
once
two.
again, take two. All right,
Round two.
round two. All right, and we have refill. Thank you so much for the refill.
Don't you buy an old lady?
Okay, we were talking about what was the.
Did we go back to where we were 15 minutes ago, or do we go back to?
No, we continue.
Okay,
We continue.
keep going.
We keep going.
You missed a lot of great conversation about a lot of many things, deemed very insightful by many people in the area. So, but you missed out. Sorry, guys.
It's very interesting. Like, this is where you were like, we might enter into minefield, and
Oh, maybe we're being protected.
it's off the. It's like, this reminds me. Who was it? I think it was Steve Jobs who had this thing called the Lost interview.
No, I don't know.
So I think it was Steve Jobs, and he has this thing called the Lost interview, and everybody kind of creates a myth around it that it was so amazing. He talked about that, and it was lost. It was never recorded. Somebody threw it. Somebody
Interesting.
mistakenly deleted. And as it creates more myth around
Yeah.
it, everybody wants to know more.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you create kind of more and more. What do we say? This aura around it that this was so cool. And same thing is right now happening with Dan Romero and Farcaster, where you know Farcaster, right?
Yeah, of course.
So
of course.
the moment Dan Romero left it, now people are like, maybe there is more story and aura to it. The fact that the founder has left, and maybe now it creates into something, and so it's very interesting. Sometimes when you have these instances where things are not recorded, it creates a certain vibe, certain thing around
Yeah,
it.
this mystery. Yeah,
This mystery, yes.
that's what you folks will have to live in.
That's it.
The spicy topics that we got into. Yeah.
Cheers again.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for bringing this.
All right.
All right, let me see this one. The
You
question.
were saying that you believe that national service should be a universal duty. No, you were saying you agreed on all the points
I
of
wish.
Palantir.
It's so interesting, like how they have written these what do we say, these context heavy things in just one line, so which could be
Yeah.
taken into, which could be interpreted in as many ways as you want.
Right.
Like us reading this right now, we are interpreting in a certain way. Someone else reading the same thing is like, it means we should do this, and you're like,
Yeah.
bro, that's not what I was talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
I think it's like partly from a book, and like they were like restating like what parts they believed in. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
saying exceptional book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is definitely like if you see Alex Karp, right?
Yes.
Like he talks exactly in these ways. So, he's an interesting CEO.
Very interesting.
If you could have dinner with any CEO, which would it be?
Wow.
Other than Elon, because I think everyone would say Elon.
Yeah, I think we don't want boring answers.
Yeah.
Then Elon. Okay, what's a tool that I really enjoy right now? I think I would like to talk to Benji. I think.
Okay.
Maybe right now.
And you know him, you
He's-
said.
Yeah. He's
So
top
just
of-
catching
top
up with
of
a friend.
mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I think this is it, right? Like, how do we add more beauty to what we are already doing? It's like Stripe. You know how Stripe was earlier called? What was Stripe called? DYDX? No, not DYDX. But something like that. DevX, DevY, something like that.
Yeah, it was something like
Let me check quickly. What was the original name of Stripe? It was called /dev/payments.
yeah. It's like so like
So.
it's like a GitHub repo.
Exactly. So, and now suddenly when you look at these guys, the Collison brothers, they are talking about philosophy, they're talking about art, they're talking about
Yeah.
beauty and aesthetics, and that's it. I think you kind of want to add beauty to the things that are already proven to
Yeah.
be functional. Beauty without substance can quickly feel empty. Substance without beauty will feel like it doesn't have soul. So the best thing to do is always first find substance and then add beauty to it. And that's when you feel that there is so much depth to this thing.
Agreed.
It's not just utility, there's philosophy,
Yeah.
there's an ideology, how you look at this. A really good example. So 3 months ago, I left my previous home where I
Where was
was in Vancouver. I left one of my homes and moved to a different place. And I had to now get a new gym. Earlier, I was at Equinox. And I always loved Equinox because over 3 years I made a lot of friends and it's a beautiful place and all that. And then now 3 months ago, I was like, okay, I need a new gym. Equinox is too far. I go to a different gym which is priced similar to Equinox, but it's not the same global brand of Equinox, right? The moment I go there, I just feel like I can't go over there. Something inside me is making me not go over there. And that made me really look into the philosophy of Equinox and the design of Equinox and all that, because I'm like, they were doing something right, which pulled me towards that. And I'm really pulled by beauty and all of that kind of stuff, right? And the woo-woo stuff, I'm pulled by that. And it was so interesting. It's like, yeah, so this new gym, Aldea, they have the same like $200 membership.
Is this in Montreal or where is this?
Vancouver.
Oh, it's still in Vancouver.
Yes.
Wait, okay, you just moved within Vancouver.
Yeah,
okay.
moved within Vancouver, so a little bit further than my previous gym. So same pricing, $200. They have bought the right equipment. They have tried to make everything expensive to justify the $200 per month price of a gym. But there's a way how you when you have a philosophy, how to think about it, and everything falls in under that, it's beautiful. But when you just mix and match things that, okay, this is a chair, I don't want $10 chair, I want $50 chair, so that I can price people $200, right? Yeah. If you just think about that, and if you keep stacking price like that, and if there's no alignment and philosophy towards that, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like I'm attached to this particular thing. I don't know how to describe.
By the way, Equinox is a cult, if you don't know. If you're not from North America, Equinox is a cult. And Prashant is a member of multiple cults: Network School, Equinox, Illuminati. No kidding.
Illuminati, definitely.
No,
Network
these are
School,
not cults.
Yeah.
I'm joking, Balaji. Please don't.
All right. We'll go to the next one. Now we have Chamath. Tell us more about Chamath's latest tweet.
Okay, so he published these graphs from, I don't know if Social Capital actually compiled the graphs or if they used someone else's research, but this is repackaging, right? So this graph here, at least the top one, if we can like zoom in a bit, it says that AI is now perceived more negatively than ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, in the United States. And this was kind of, the source is NBC News. So right. NBC did a poll and found that AI is under ICE and very slightly below Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom.
Wow.
But it's just kind of going to show like, but still better than the Democratic Party, apparently.
Right. And way better than Iran. Okay.
But it's just interesting because right now, I think the doomerist narratives, kind of like speaking to like that event that we're doing next week, a lot of the doomerist narratives are kind of pervading like the media right now about AI. And there's not a lot of like the techno-optimist kind of voices being A, expressed, and B, kind of getting airtime. Like, Mark Andreessen wrote like the Techno-Optimist manifesto, I think it was last year, which kind of did, but it's like, it's kind of coming from all the like people that you wouldn't like it seems like it's self-interested, where it's like the VCs and like the founders are saying it, but unfortunately, like, these doomerist and kind of negative narratives about tech are just growing and growing. And like, you saw Sam Altman's house got, Molotov cocktail thrown at it, like shots fired at it. There's more of these protests of data centers all around the United States.
Right.
Local city councils are rejecting the plans to bring them into their homes. So it's just right now, like this is like a very big political problem, and I think as like unemployment increases, B, you start to see these really negative things like who was it that was it not Base, Jack Dorsey's company. Block, right.
50%.
When Block, fired all those people, its stock jumped 25%. The more you see these kind of layoffs plus like the rich getting richer and things like that, these narratives start to kind of become more and more prominent, which they will over the next like few months and years. Like this is just going to get worse, and there's going to be this kind of like bifurcation of like the technologists versus like the people. And so, we're going to hear more about UBI and things like that. Right. And you've had some guys like, Elon talk about universal high income, and everyone's like, this smells like bullshit and stuff like that, right? And how do we manage this in the context of like, the already high national debt? Yeah. So like this is like really concerning, and like this is only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And so the question is for like founders or people like that in the tech industry, like what do we do about this? Or like, how do we start to think about those people in society that are not technologists, and are they right? Are they right to be distrustful? Or like, what do we do about this? So what do we do about this, Prashant? Tell me.
No, it's very interesting. I think there are two things over here. Number one is finding the right solution. Number two is also controlling the narrative. By Elon talking about universal high income, he's at least controlling the anger towards him. Because if he starts talking about the fact that I don't give a shit about other people, I'm just gonna fire everybody who's inefficient and I'm gonna keep making more and more money, people are gonna come at him. So by people starting to have a conversation around it, like at least control the narrative right now, that don't try to. And I think there's something like it's so interesting. Like we're talking NSTV.world, right? Like people are I was sharing with people. I'm like, people are surprised, people are happy, and I'm like, I don't know anything. I know shit. I am literally just going to Claude. I'm like, hey, do this, and it's like, and if anytime I have a problem, I don't go to him and be like, I have this idea. I'm like, no. How would you clean this up? I don't like this. You give me solutions, and then you give me 3 solutions and recommends me that the best solution is a combination of 1 and 2. I'm like, perfect. Why do I have to, like, sometimes it like working with AI, being self-reliant, like there's another book which I really like, which Balaji recommends. It's called The Frontier of the American Society. And it was talking about as the European settlers kept pushing into the free land, kept pushing into the West, it self-selected for a certain quality of people who were self-reliant, who were pragmatic, and who were egalitarian, which makes so much sense. And this is exactly what's happening over here. When you push yourself into the frontier, which is kind of this, and what does frontier mean? Frontier means that you don't have beautiful local coffee shops over here to go to and have your $9 matcha latte, right? You don't have your Pilates classes. The weather can be shitty. You don't have your high fashion industry over here, which means that you are focused and you don't have really good Wi-Fi.
Frontier, not fancy.
Frontier, not fancy. So you are focused on being self-reliant. You are focused on being pragmatic. We don't have time for debates. We are running a city over here. And not a city, we are running a school over here. And finally, it pushes for egalitarianism, which means that we cannot be following a hierarchy over here. We want everybody to engage and participate and understand that there's no hierarchy. It's more about what are you good at? What is the role that you are playing in contributing to this thing that we are trying to do over here?
That's right.
So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. And, at least in the NS context, I kind of propose this like guild model of how do we actually do that and allow kind of bottom-up formation of communities to support that vision. But I think I agree with you with what you're saying about Elon, where he's trying to kind of take it more head on to say like, look, we're not trying to, this is all in service of ultimately allowing all boats to rise. If we're able to realize this grand vision, then this will kind of circle back to the average person through universal high income. But I guess most people are just skeptical that like will this happen? And like, of course this is self-serving for him to say it, to say like, don't worry about it, let me have more control, let me keep running the kind of horses and things like that, and don't worry if they're going fast and far, like we'll bring you along with us for the ride. But then also I think that there's this like kind of skepticism of like, when in history have the ultra rich redistributed their wealth to the to like the lowest classes of society. You can argue there have been forms of that, but this disparity will probably be something like we've never seen before. And we're starting to see the very beginning of it with like this unemployment. Like I don't know if you have friends who have been laid off recently, but it's really kind of scary and difficult.
It's even if you are not unemployed, there is anxiety.
Yes, 100%.
There is anxiety, constant. And this is also interesting. Naval has this quote, and Naval talks about this fact that if we have 7 billion people or 8 billion people on Earth, the most interesting thing to look to, the most interesting stage to reach at would be where we have 8 billion businesses or 8 billion entrepreneurs. And I think the idea is basically talking about that everybody starts their own business, everybody finds their own role to contribute. But the problem is, if you are today, there's another beautiful quote, there are two biggest drugs of life, which is cocaine and a monthly salary. As long as you keep on getting that monthly salary,
I've only had one of those things, and I'm not going to say which.
Let's go. And
Prashant, I won't ask you.
I got the other one, Old Inlandia. Yeah. But yeah, it's like on day one, on the first day of the month, you're like, I want to start a business. On day 7, you're brainstorming. On 15th, you get the injection. Month salary. You're like, fuck, why? Life is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Just spend that money, buy that matcha latte.
But do you believe that, like, because you've been an entrepreneur, right? And like, and I've founded companies too, and I don't think it's for everyone though. Like, I can't foresee 8 billion entrepreneurs. And just like, they say like everyone will be able to be poets and painters and stuff like that. A lot of people attach their meaning to their jobs, and like some people, there are leaders and followers, right? And entrepreneurship is very much a lead from the front type thing. It's lonely and things like that. Not everyone wants to, I think, be an entrepreneur. Some people just want to be told what to do. And it comes to a point where as an entrepreneur, you're like, do I hire the human that is going to be quite expensive and slow and gets tired and needs sick leave and might get offended or blah, 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 or just get the AI to do it? So like, there's no incentive to hire the person. So like, I just don't know if I believe that there will be 8 billion entrepreneurs.
Right. This is, I believe, also the conversation on nature versus nurture, where yes, there are some people who, when they were born as a kid, you can see them very entrepreneurial. You can see that this person will become entrepreneurial. And some people, I would believe that you also believe in environment. Your environment changes you. So if suddenly you are laid off and you have no way to find another job, and now the only thing you are supposed to do is be self-reliant or you will die. You are now forced to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
So,
and I've met some people at NS that are like that. They've been laid off recently, that they're now starting their own businesses. And I do believe, kind of to Naval's point, that maybe you won't have 8 billion entrepreneurs, but you will now make an entrepreneur out of the guy who is stuck being a junior graphic designer at some agency for the last 10 years, right? Like, you will now force him into entrepreneurship, which he was meant to, someday realize. So yes, you will get millions of more entrepreneurs that would have never otherwise had that opportunity, more out of kind of like forced to, rather than maybe involuntary entrepreneurs. Exactly. But that might be them realizing their highest potential. But on the other hand, I also don't believe that everyone is suited to be an entrepreneur. And this is where, like, you can get into things like UBI or even universal basic compute or universal basic services, like combinations of these things. That might be like what the future might look like.
This is so interesting, universal basic compute, because this is a conversation I was having with a friend that the best thing you can do today right now is gift someone a Claude Pro subscription, 5x usage. And that is universal basic compute. You can do so much. All you have to do is find a problem around you. And then now you get in the loop. Build, talk to users. Build, talk to users. That's it. And
exactly. And that might be what governments have to do in addition to providing, like, cash. Might be saying every person gets, it's almost like a plot of land, right? Where like you can grow vegetables on that land. You can turn it into like a like a horse farm and raise horses, or you can turn it into a cottage and make it a bed and breakfast. Like, this is like, compute will be like, you decide what you do with it. Everyone gets their piece of compute. You can choose to use that compute to start your business. Maybe you pool your compute with someone else who then makes it into something bigger. Like, do you kind of like, stake it for someone else and get the yield on that? Do you join other people to build companies and pool your compute to start a company that way? Like, I think universal basic compute might be one of the ways to, like, rather than just basic income, which is kind of like a passive thing, universal basic compute might be a way to, like, on top of the income, so that we have a level of sustainability that you still can feed yourself, have shelter, blah, blah, blah. But universal basic compute might be the way to kind of still encourage entrepreneurialism and give people that opportunity to live better than just like a subsistence level life. So I think there will have to be a combination of universal basic services, universal basic income, and universal basic compute to let people still like fulfill that kind of purpose part of their life, or give themselves something to do.
So interesting.
Yeah.
This is like,
we'll see if it happens.
Yeah. This is so interesting, because it's like, how we say that there's this idea that, okay, if you find someone, let's say, consider this hypothetical situation, that you find your friend suddenly becomes homeless, right? Now, let's not say friend, let's say you see someone homeless. What is the best way to help them? If you just give them $1,000, you don't know based on the situation how would they spend that money.
True.
But if they are homeless and all they need is shelter, let me just give you a mattress. So that's it. Like, if you want to build something, instead of me giving you money and then you spending it out on alcohol or gambling or something like that, let me just give you compute, or let me just give you the utility instead of money, because money is a proxy of you purchasing utility.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a stacking of these things.
Yeah.
Like, still get healthcare, still get money for food and shelter.
Yeah.
But the compute part is that kind of X factor where it's like, this is where you can really build potential wealth and find other trajectories. Or maybe if you do want to be an artist, you're using your compute to generate art or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then one of the big questions is in a universal basic compute context is, Canada, for example, was one of the first countries to have a national AI strategy in 2018. And my organization that I do on the side is a nonprofit that advocates for Web3 quantum and AI founders. We commented on the recent announcement of they want to invest about $1.2 to $2 billion into AI, and a large part of that is going into compute. But the problem is that a lot of the compute is owned in the United States, right? They're doing it through these through Microsoft, AWS, stuff like that. So it's not domestically owned compute. So going back to this kind of national interest, national security thing, as these compute resources become more scarce, and Canada's trying to build a strategy around its AI, it's still very much reliant on the US, for example. We don't have domestic capacity. We haven't supported the Canadian companies. The one kind of Canadian star in AI is Cohere.
Yes.
And Cohere is rumored to be acquired by a US company.
Oh my God.
And they were going to be a core part of the national AI strategy.
Right.
We may have no domestic capacity for AI, both at the infrastructure and at the kind of inference layer. And if the future is AI, then we're going to be in a really tough spot, no matter how much money we throw at the problem.
Right.
And by the way, the time they announced that 1.2 billion for compute, Microsoft announced that they were going to build a $1.4 billion data center in Indonesia, the same day. It's this is our national strategy, and then Microsoft's yeah, we're going to build this thing in Indonesia. So we're also doing it small. And another funny part on the job displacement side, they said they're allocating $50 million to job displacement programs. And I did the math at the time, and I was if they said that 30% of all jobs were going to be displaced by AI, it translated to be $15 a person, for job displacement. So it's just we are focused in how we're thinking about AI, not just on the infrastructure and compute side, but also on the impact side is so disproportionate. It reminds me a lot of the AI training and inference side versus the safety side. You know how what's his name? The godfather of AI. He's the base at U of T.
Yes.
Jeffrey Hinton.
So
Hinton says for every dollar spent on the kind of compute side, you should spend $1 on safety. Maybe when it comes to us investing in the infrastructure of AI, we need to put a same dollar in the impact side of job displacement and stuff like that.
Right.
Because we're disproportionately spending on that side, but we have very little focus on the other side.
Right. I think some people are proposing this idea of machine dividends, which is, or compute dividends, that the money, yes, you could be building these computes, these robots, and I forgot the mechanics, how people are proposing, but there's this idea.
Well, a lot of the early UBI proposals have been around extremely high taxation of these companies, right? And then it almost circles back to this Palantir kind of post, right? Where it's if you're taxing these companies at, let's say, an exorbitant rate, let's say 99%, are you de facto then nationalizing these companies, right? Because you're essentially stripping away all the profits and taking it away from the shareholders to then subsidize your own government people, right? So in that case, you're nationalizing the company, and the only way a company would maybe put up with it is if they agree with what Palantir is saying, is you have to do this in service to the national interest, but their service is first to their shareholders, right? And so do these companies like leave these countries like that are threatening to try to tax them to redistribute into AI into UBI and universal basic compute and stuff like that. It's like there's like a big like question mark of like, how does this all add up?
Right.
Right.
Right. And this reminds me of one question which I've been thinking about recently. So we are sitting over here in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about America, China, a little bit of India, maybe Russia, maybe France or another country in Europe, but that's it. There are 180 countries in the world. And we are just talking about the American perspective. What is happening in the rest of the world? How are they thinking about AI?
Yeah.
And they're not even part of the conversation.
Well, they like they say like the future is not evenly distributed, right? Like
future is here, but not evenly distributed.
Yes, exactly, and it's like it's so very true. Like I before this, I was working in Thailand for a Thai company, and when Naval says that thing about 8 billion entrepreneurs, like most of these people will not use AI, and many of them will still sell street food, and many of them will still like they don't have enough training to like let's say go and do start their own like online store or something like that, right?
Shopify, dropship.
Yeah, like I mean, come on, like so yeah. I think how this kind of plays out is gonna be very different. Like labor's been one of the biggest costs of production when it comes to historically ever since like the Industrial Revolution, right? And so like for some parts of the world that will be completely eliminated, right? So that's why costs will drop significantly. A lot of these lower income countries where they were being employed will essentially become irrelevant to those supply chains, right? So like, are they just going to be unemployed? Are you going to have like hundreds of millions, billions of unemployed people because AI will theoretically eliminate their labor costs entirely? And so like what happens to them?
Right.
I don't know. And like, I don't expect to see like, these rich countries necessarily go and, distribute the wealth to bring up their people to a subsistence level. I wouldn't bet on that.
Very interesting. So these are like, we're talking two layers of UBI, not only American companies distributing UBI or American government distributing UBI to American citizens, but also if America and let's say China are the two countries with all the compute, then them distributing UB, universal basic income to the countries, to the rest 178 countries.
And what obligation do they have? Like
exactly.
But it's kind of like in Canada, right? Like they have the equalization payments where like the provinces each pay nationally,
right?
And then the federal government redistributes it to provinces that are, let's say, like economically like more disadvantaged. So Alberta is a major contributor to equalization payments, and Quebec is a major taker.
Wow.
Yeah, major taker. Yeah, because like their manufacturing sectors collapsed, like pretty large population. Like, but they are a recipient of equalization payments.
Right.
But Alberta, Ontario, they are donors to the federal equalization payments. That's why Alberta is very eager to separate, because they're like, what are we paying for? Like, why are we paying into this and we get nothing out of it?
Yeah. Alberta equally is like, we still have the capacity of oil and gas. Why are people treating this as if like we are done, like we have died? Very interesting. What are your thoughts on the Alberta separatist situation?
I think it would kind of be funny because it'd be kind of like this like gap tooth in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like, same with Quebec. If Quebec left, it would be so strange. Like, how would things work?
I think that's the first thing I think about with all these separatist movement. I think it's gonna mess up the map.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, there's government, there's lives and all that stuff, but it's gonna look ugly on my map that I'm gonna see in my geography lecture.
Yeah, and what US will look like very strange. Yeah,
exactly.
But it looked like a little unicorn with a little horn at the top. But yeah, no, I think obviously like a unified Canada is very important, and there's like different kind of balances of like I love Alberta too. Like I have you been to like Calgary or
Banff?
Oh, beautiful. Like it would be a shame to lose that, right? But but this is kind of like goes to like the network state thing, right? Like Canada and the US are kind of like 51-49 countries, right? Where like you have a relatively small majority, like a very thin majority, and then you have like a pretty large minority that is like pissed off, right? Like you got 51%, 49%, right? That's how like the U.S. elections break.
Yeah.
Canada, it's like slightly different because we've got, you know, four major national parties. But it's kind of like our values are becoming more and more kind of divided, and how do you kind of reconcile these? Like, we have a container that's drawn by geography saying we are Canada, but what does it mean to be Canadian? Because an Albertan has very different views than the downtown Torontonian, right? Same with like someone from Montreal. Like, I remember when I was in Toronto, we called in the army to like dig us out because there was too much snow. All the Quebecers and like the East Coasters like laughed at the Torontonians as being like, you know, wimps for like calling in the army to like dig us out.
Okay.
So like the value set is like so
Right,
different. So
right.
like, what does it mean to be, you know, a nation in that sense? And same with the United States. Like, how united is the United States? It's like these almost like city states that are just happen to be amalgamated for the purposes of a map.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of like what network state is trying to do, right? Where it's like an opt-in society with like similar values. You understand what you're getting yourself into, and like, you know, it's like you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends.
Yeah.
You can't pick your city of birth or country of birth, but maybe you can pick the
City of
society
death.
that you subscribe to,
Yeah.
right? So I think, yeah, that's why the network state vision, I think, is starting to like resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because they see this like divide, or like they see it's hard to find people with similar values, but when they see they're with those types of people, like they're able to like thrive a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. And internet is allowing for that you could be in physical proximity with someone, but you are not in mental proximity with them.
Yes.
You could be sitting right beside them in a city like Vancouver, but you are like, I don't think like these people.
Yeah.
And that means that then you start finding for people with whom you actually have mental proximity.
Right, and and that's where, like, you know, Balaji talks about bringing things
Printing
from
the
cloud to
cloud,
land,
yeah.
right? Like, and I think the being physically together is like super important.
Yeah.
Because like we even see this in DAOs, and like yesterday we gave a talk on DAOs, and like
Yes.
part of the reason why DAOs, you know, often like fail is because when you're just online, like people don't have they don't have the compunction about not like gaming the system and trying to like, you know, like steal treasury funds or like buy votes so that they can get funds and run away with it. Like when you're with people here, right, like the outcomes are very obvious to everyone. Like you can see whether or not you actually fulfilled your promise. You know the people on a personal level, so you can get a sense of their character. Like, you know, you start to like people, get to know them better. But online, it's like very anonymous and it's very like kind of unaccountable, right? So the physical part is like so important.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and that's one thing that like like network school has the best chance to prove out the network state model of any other kind of like, you know, of these experiments going on around the world. So I hope it works.
Totally. I think about a lot of things that people are trying to do.
Yeah.
So I was part of this one community, a men's academy, and then slowly it starts with just like a weekly entrepreneur call where everybody's talking. And then as you slowly talk about it, the main guy who started the community, he's like, okay, I want to now bring the right people from this call together, and we live like in South America and Peru or something like that. And then he came across Balaji's book, and he's like, my goal is to build a village now. So it's very interesting how you see that exactly, like as people also become start a community anywhere, online, offline, they slowly become ambitious. They slowly become ambitious about how they want to do it. And then slowly Balaji's kind of doing the most ambitious thing over here. So you see how everybody kind of gets aligned towards that. So I would join his community as well, but Balaji has kind of thought about the same thing from very holistic level, from political level, from like everything, right?
Yeah.
So from cryptocurrency, like that guy, he's a great guy, but he might have not thought about like how do you do self-sovereign currency in this new country, and how do you manage the passports of all these people? How long can they actually stay over there? How can you make it long term? How do we actually be diplomatic with the local officials if we want to build something at that scale? So stuff like that.
Yeah, and like obviously it's still like very much a work in progress and all that here, but you know, having a permanent, like there's a lot of pop-ups and stuff like that. I think pop-ups like they're nice, but generally they come off more as like glorified conferences, really. But having a permanent location here, I think his shift towards getting people more long term is also important, and I think maybe the next phase is to kind of find maybe not develop more of a homogenous group, but at least more of like maybe a aligned group of like of certain kind of visions and ambitions. So maybe it is like, because right now I think you may or may not agree, but I find that it's kind of a polyglot of people. You got content creators here, you got founders there, you got people that are just kind of nomads that want to check out this place and stuff like that. But I think as it finds its footing, it'll probably coalesce around like certain kind of groups of people. Like I think families are kind of an interesting one, where you're starting to see like, okay, this is like a model that they see as viable here, and they may build their own kind of almost like micro kind of community within NS. And I think the founders are starting to see that. You see like anchor companies like Qantas, how Qantas as a company, a more mature company, is able to sometimes like hire from like the kind of circulating group of people that come through here. And you may see like more like of these AI folks. Like there's so many AI people here that if you're building an AI project, it's very likely you can find someone to either collaborate with or to hire from, or who can help you build your thing. And so it's kind of building this like from bottom up incubator in a way. So who knows how it'll kind of turn out, but I think you're starting to see like it figure out like out these shapes of what it might look like, instead of this like polyglot of like random people.
Very interesting, but I would think that if you actually want to build a city, you do want the variety and diversity, right? Which comes from everywhere. You have the travelers, you have, let's say, intellectuals, you have engineers, you have designers.
Yeah, I agree. Like you do need like that diversity, but I think like at the kind of values level, or at least like getting people long term. You do kind of need you need to have like an engine behind it. So like that's why you need a bit more of like the people that have like an economic reason to be here. So that's why you need more kind of serious companies here that are able to hire and are able to
serious company.
Base.
You're pointing in the right one. Yes, base.
You get serious companies that are able to kind of like generate like create an economy here. Because I think that's one thing that some folks here have difficulty is like they'll sometimes go to Singapore to do like meetings and stuff like that, or KL, but until there's a kind of like an economy here, it could be difficult to keep people here for the long term, other than like maybe remote workers. But again, remote workers are very kind of transient people. Like they're not going to stay here for years and years. But families might, right? Couples might. People like a Qantas, maybe up until they get really big, they'll probably stay here. Some of the other kind of portfolio companies that Balaji has here. So but you still need like the plumbers and the the teachers and stuff like that.
Totally. Okay, really cool. We are going on for 1.5 hours now. Do you want to keep going?
I'm good with whatever.
Okay, let's go for 10 more minutes, 10-15 more minutes.
Sure.
Let's cover the last post that you had signed up for us.
Or do you want to talk about the book, or do you want to talk about, if you want to stay on AI? This is about like investing.
Summary.
This is like angel investing. I don't know if that's interesting to you and your crowd.
Let's go books.
Okay, let's go books.
All right.
I agree. You're the book man at network school. You're the wise librarian.
I'm the librarian. All right.
But he doesn't fine people. Do you fine people if they don't return the books?
Oh, you said fine or find?
Fine, like fine.
Fine.
Like, give me money.
Find people.
Oh, okay.
But I find them. I find them and I tell them that, hey, you took the book.
Yeah.
And
where
we
is
run
it?
on a high trust society. I gave you this book because I believe that either you love this book and you keep it, but then you contribute another good book to the library, or you just bring that book back and you appreciate that, yes, we have this beautiful culture.
True. That made me think there should be like an on-chain library card or something like that. Be very transparent who has the book. Yeah. And you build a reputation system around it. This person's a freaking carrier.
Or just put a CCTV. The moment the book is out, this goes on a Discord that this person took the book. That book isn't here.
Yes.
That's it.
Interesting. Wow, we're building businesses here. This book is If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies.
Wow.
Dramatic title.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah,
and it's written by.
Eliezer Yudkowsky, who's a famous AI safety researcher.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
But
shock.
what's your P-doom? Do you know the term P-doom?
Yes. Probability of doom.
Yes, caused by AI. What's your P-doom?
It's very interesting. I like to look at the pros and cons and still go for the optimist version of the world.
So you have a low P-doom.
I have a low P-doom. That's right.
What would you...
I want to say 5.
5?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Ideally, I would go even less. But yeah, it's like if I'm living and I have agency, then I want to make sure that this world goes towards this beautiful vision. Because
I agree.
it's like once your Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like once your needs are covered, then you're just creating art. And what is art? It's a beautiful vision that you have in your head, and you're like, what if I can make that happen?
Right,
That's
right.
it. Like book club. I'm like, everybody was saying that, oh, we don't keep books over here because we brought some books here and then people just took them and everything is gone. And I'm like, no, I have a beautiful vision that let's not put the books in the library, like far away from where the density is. Let's put books where they're accessible, where people are already in the middle of this cafe. They're picking books up. And then let me sit over there and actually hand you a book. And so you kind of remember me as the book guy. And if you take a book home, you don't return it. And if I see you eye to eye, you feel shame.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so it's
smart,
like creating that kind of, if I was bought into network school by this idea of this is a high trust society. So let me assume it's a high trust society. Let me not doubt it.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
very true. Well, and this is like, this book is obviously kind of the opposite in that sense. It's pretty much saying like if the outcome is that everyone will die if we build this, because like Yudkowsky, same with like Roman Yudkowsky, his P-dooms are like 99, right? Like, so the probability of the existential threat to humanity is like almost guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying like, don't even build it, like, or like build it very narrowly so that it is not capable of fulfilling this like potential disastrous outcome.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have like other folks like Alex Wisner-Gross, who wrote Solve Everything, which kind of looks at it in a kind of I think, what was your screen name again? What was your screen name? Something Moonshots? Billion Moonshots?
Billion Moonshots, yes.
So he talks about
that was
moonshots.
my previous podcast.
Okay,
yes.
interesting. So he talks about, he's on the Moonshot podcast, and he wrote it with Peter Diamandis actually.
Yeah.
Solve Everything. And what it looks at is like, what if we targeted AI to specific moonshots and like devoted the compute and all that, and especially when it comes to things like the sciences, so like biology, physics, mathematics, then we can solve like all of our problems essentially. So his is more on that kind of boomer kind of like boomer, not in the generation sense, but like the idea of a boom that could be created by AI. Whereas this is like a doomer view, right? Boomer versus doomer. And they take your kind of perspective where it's like, if we can apply the technology in the right way, and like their view is like, they say using like almost like a shaped charge, and a shaped charge is like, it uses the power focus in a certain kind of point, and then it causes much more magnified impact. They're saying like apply AI to these specific problems that we have in like physics, biology, and mathematics. Then we can solve scarcity. Then we can solve the interplanetary challenge. We can solve like everything as their kind of essay goes.
Very interesting. What's your read on so you read this book? Okay.
Yeah.
You read this book, and now you also see the beautiful things that AI is capable of doing and what people are actually doing. What's your read like? What role does this book play in the meta situation that we are in?
Well, I think it's like reading like Art of War versus Art of the Deal. I always try to look at like the different perspectives.
Pretty cool. Love that.
Yeah. I think it's important, even if like you don't agree with it, like to
Yeah.
understand like what is their narrative, what's their kind of perspective. I think like when it comes to if anyone builds it, everyone dies. The view is partly rooted in like human nature, So the fact that like humans are you know, corruptible and, you know, have historically had a tendency to, you know, it's like Lord of the Rings, right? Like they've been given the ring of power and they've applied it in pretty negative ways, right?
Yeah.
Like just ask Hiroshima or Nagasaki, right? And so it's partly rooted in the human nature challenges, but it's also rooted in the technological challenges of AI, where I think a lot of people would agree that it is not a fully explainable technology yet. Like even the frontier labs say this, right? Like all the CEOs say like, we are still trying to figure out how it thinks and like how it works. And because of that, his kind of assessment is that those two things make it that kind of level of probability. When those two things compound to give him a p-doom of like 95. And he kind of walks through like a fake company kind of story of like how this might actually play out. But again, like I think it is a pretty like there's some very, I guess, pessimistic assumptions that underpin a lot of it, and you know, I hope it doesn't play out. I actually think that there's a lot of reasons why I think these people who are wielding the technologies would not want to see this play out, right? Because they all have families, you know, they all want to see the future kind of be better. So my hope is that they are going to be more focused on these like solving actual problems, because I also think theoretically it's more profitable to, you know, solve like real challenges to create abundance than it is to create technologies that kill everyone, right? It's not very profitable to destroy humanity. So that's my kind of view on that. Like if you subscribe to those views, then I can see why you agree with this, but I'm more on like your camp.
Yeah.
Or the alternative camp, which is like in the event that we're hosting on the 28th. There's like the doomers, and then there's the boomers, which are the solve everything folks, and then there's the bloomers, where perhaps the way to instead of create these two extremes, the bloomers are the people who believe, per like Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near, that man will become machine, that we will like essentially integrate circuits and technologies into ourselves, and like if you can't beat them, join them, right? Like we become like symbiotic. Right. And that's the way forward for humanity.
Right.
And to some degree, that's like started already, right? Like we're constantly attached to like our phones and like, you know, our laptops, and sure, it's not like an integrated circuit, but it's like damn near close, right? It's like the first thing we reach for. We feel empty if we don't have it near us. Like,
if we have to.
So yeah, so like maybe that's the third scenario, right? Where it's like there's a mutual kind of like benefit of us being kind of together. So those are like three scenarios that could potentially play out. Or the fourth scenario is nothing happens and we just stay like unproductive and
one way or one specific thing I'm thinking about this book is also, some people might just think that the premise of this book is wrong, because it says that if everyone builds it, there's this idea that we already have AGI, it's just not distributed. People are just not using it. We are just not using it. It's just not diffused. The problem is more diffusion of the technology than the technology itself.
Yeah, I think that's true. And like, because I plotted like all the AGI projections of like the CEOs of the frontier labs and some of the people from these like safety institutes, and I think like 90% of them are within the next 5 years. You know, there's folks like Musk and Altman who actually think it's already here, like right now. And then there's, I think Dario is like 2026, 2027. So like, I think the consensus is that AGI is already here, but it's maybe not public. Yeah. And then ASI, the vast majority also believe is within the next 10 years. And so at that point, like, you know, like all bets are kind of off when it comes to our superiority at the top of like the food chain as like the apex intelligence, right? Right. Which will be like a complete something new for us to be dethroned from that. Because we've never been the fastest, the strongest, or the best protected species, but we have been the smartest. And then suddenly we're going to be number 2 in that category, and so who knows what happens. and this is where things like the alignment is important, and that's why, like, you know, Anthropic has their constitution. That's what they say is protecting or making sure that their AI is aligned.
Yeah.
The constitution tries to imbue into its models like a value set, and it's kind of like that, like, you know, that thought experiment of like, what if Superman, you know, Superman came to Earth as like a baby in like a spaceship, and he happened to land in like a farmer's field of like this very nice, like Midwestern, like kind, you know, couple. What if he had landed in like, I don't know, like a gang somewhere in like the favelas or something? Would he turn into this like complete monster, right? Like, it's the same with AI, like who raises it? Like what are the values that are imbued in it? Because there's the internal and external alignment of these models. Right. The external alignment being like what value set does it align to, and then the internal alignment being how well does it adhere to those things. That's the big question. And going back to the national AI argument, like, does each country need its own kind of model and how it's aligned to its own values? Because as we kind of talked about in this
lost interview.
The lost interview, and in the we would have lost that part. And we talked about Palantir talking about how different cultures have different value sets and some are better than the others. Yeah. We certainly do need like maybe AIs that speak more to like our value sets. So maybe there's like a national Canadian model that, you know, all AIs in Canada need to be aligned to the Canadian model.
Influences you to eat poutine all the time.
But yeah, so like it's very interesting to see how this all plays out.
Really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe let's end over there.
Okay.
We need to go one more time. This
For
was
sure.
very cool. We hit 2 hours over here. This is amazing, man.
And we need to be sponsored by Old
Exactly. We'll get sponsored by these guys. We'll get sponsored by NS Cafe. We'll have a smoothie. We'll have sparkling water. Thank you so much, Randall.